episode of 52 Authors, 52 Weeks. Today's episode, I am joined by author Melanie Gareau, author of Why Me? What Now? Welcome to the show. So, how
Thank
are
you.
you today?
I am great. How about yourself?
Wonderful, wonderful. It's wintertime here in the Chicagoland area, so it is what it is. I'm waiting for summer is what I do every year. I'm all about the warm weather months as an April baby.
Yeah, same here. But we've had such a mild winter. We have some plus temperatures, which is in Celsius. It's fairly warm out here, which is not normal for the month of February.
I'm jealous. I am jealous. So tell us a little bit about, before we get into the book, tell us a little bit about you and then what led to the creation of your masterpiece.
Okay. So yeah, my name is Melanie. I was a teacher. I did a few years of admin work in my school, and now I'm an education consultant with the Francophone School Division in my province. I live in Saskatchewan, so I'm a prairies girl. My writing journey is not like other authors' journey. Mine really stemmed from needing to work through some things after having experienced a really very hard thing as a teacher. So in 2015, it was a Wednesday, I went to work. I got there an hour before the students did. I did that every morning. I was in my classroom getting prepped for the day, and I was sitting at my computer, and I noticed one of my 10th grade students pull up in his car just outside the school in front of my window. And I thought that was a little bit strange because it was early and he wasn't a student who normally came to school early, but his mom worked in the school. She was the custodian at the time. So I thought maybe she had asked him to come help with some stuff. So I turned my back to the window and got back to my prep work for the day. And all of a sudden I heard what sounded like a snowball being thrown at my window. That is exactly what I thought it was. So I turned to see what that was. I didn't see anything. The little car was still there. So I went back to my work, and about a minute later, someone ran into my classroom and said that my student had taken his life just outside of my classroom window. So the rest of the day, kind of like I was there when the mom learned that something had happened to her son. The students started to arrive. I'm in a very, very small town. We don't have first responders right there. We don't have, the paramedics or policemen, readily available. They had to drive in from the nearest, a larger town nearby. So the students started to arrive off the bus. It was chaotic. It felt a lot like what you see in the movies where time slows down, but everything also seems to be going very fast. It was incredibly hard. It was a hard day, and it turned into a hard rest of the school year. I saw my students change. I changed after that day. So for a while, I feel like I bottled everything inside. I didn't really try to think about what happened. I didn't try to make sense out of it. It felt safer for me to just ignore the fact that my student had taken his life and died by suicide that day. So I ignored it. I was in autopilot mode. I didn't try to give it too much thought because it was too painful. Fast forward a couple of years, another former student of mine took his life he died by suicide again. And that time, it kind of just forced me to feel the feelings this time. I decided it wasn't healthy for me to just keep everything bottled in. I did need to process what happened both times. So I decided to start journaling, which was my first step. I decided I need to get grounded in some way. So I decided to journal. And I wasn't journaling about the suicides or about my student and my former student. I was just journaling. It made me feel like I was in control of something. So I'd wake up early in the morning. I would take out my journal. I would jot down everything I was grateful for. I tried to, develop a vision for what I wanted my life to look like. And it felt really, really great. I also incorporated a little bit of yoga in the morning, which also helped. And I think looking back, part of that practice, that morning practice, that was healing. It was healing because every day I had to walk back into a space that no longer felt safe for me, which was the school. So waking up in the morning and being intentional about what I was, putting my thoughts towards kind of helped me with the rest of my day. I didn't realize it at the time, but it did. It was very, very powerful. A few months later, I decided I needed to do something a little more, even more intentional than just writing in a journal. So I would take out my computer and I started to write. And I was not writing a book at that time. That was not my intention. I was a high school teacher. I worked a lot with, it was a small school, so we had, pre-K to grade 12 students, but my main work was with the older students, and a lot of them would come to me for help, or we'd have conversations and they'd share some of the stuff that they were going through. And writing kind of helped me organize my thoughts so that when they came to me, I had more of an idea what was appropriate to say and not to say, and what kind of advice that I want to give them. And I think it was definitely, I felt pressure to not say the wrong thing. And I feel like now it wouldn't have mattered. I think just listening was all they needed. Like, they needed someone to listen to them. Anyway, I started to write every morning, and fast forward a year, because it took me a long time, was equivalent to a book. Like, it was, almost 60,000 words, and it was a big mess of thoughts and ideas and stories. So I decided at that point that I needed to turn it into something. And I started right back at the beginning and started editing. I had decided needed to be a book. It was a long process, and that was in 2019 when I decided to really start working on it. And then COVID hit in 2020, and I also started a new position at my work. It demanded a lot from me. Like, I didn't have any mental capacity to put towards my projects. So it kind of all went on standstill for a bit. And then I ended up publishing just this last summer, so a few months ago. So the book, what it ended up becoming, is a 14 chapter book, plus obviously a prologue and a conclusion. But there are 14 topics that are covered within the book. I chose 14 hard things that teenagers go through. A lot of them will go through. So there are some very heavy topics in there. I do talk about mental health in one of my chapters, and I consider that chapter the heartbeat of my book for sure, the one on mental health, especially because that's what sparked this need to get this book out there in the first place. But I do have other chapters on, friendships and relationship with our parents, and I have a chapter on body image and bullying and sexuality. In those 14 chapters, I start with a story. And the story is there to illustrate what it could potentially look like to be struggling with this hard thing. And that also helps with, my book is geared towards a younger audience. So I think stories are more interesting for them than just being told, what to do and what not to do. And that's definitely not what I wanted for this book. I didn't want it to be a book about what the right way to do things is. I think my goal was to give my readers control over what they're going through, which is why the title is Why Me, What Now? So yes, we do have things that happen to us, things that are out of our control, and they really, really suck sometimes. Like, sometimes we go through some really hard things, but we have a choice. And that choice is not always easy to make a choice that will be better for us, because we do feel comfortable sometimes when we live in the, why me? Why is this happening to me? I am a victim in this, and this really sucks. And it feels sometimes very comfortable to be there, but we also have the choice to look at it in a different way and to, work hard on getting out of that situation. So that's what I wanted my readers to gain, is that confidence to get through those hard things. So the second part of every chapter kind of goes into, what can it look like if you're going through this hard thing? Like, how can you look at it differently, and how can you overcome that hard challenge? So there are two parts. I wanted it to be an easy read for even a 13, 14-year-old. It's very interesting after it was published. So that was my target audience, was the 13 to about 20-year-old young adult teenager. But the comments I've been getting since publishing the book have come from an older audience, usually the mothers of these children who are picking up this book to read it. And I think that's fantastic. It wasn't my intention, but I think it's great. And those mothers are reading it and thinking about their own journey through adolescence and the things that they they didn't learn back then, or they, they continue to hold on to. Even now, as the mother of a teenager, they still hold on to that trauma that happened way back in the day. So I find that so interesting. So anyway, that is a very long answer to a simple question.
No, you know what? That was great. So, number one, yes, definitely an easy read. And one of the things that I am appreciating episode after episode, author, book after book, that it's allowing me to continue to heal from my own journey. So I noticed that the book was written for a younger reader, but I immediately realized that there are some adults who have not let go of the things that they've allowed them to hold them hostage, even though they're now parents of adult children. Or of teenagers. And so the first thing that came to me, the first word I should say, was vicarious trauma. Essentially what you experience. But I also, when I first dug in, something that happened to me came up. And it wasn't that it came up in a negative way. It was wow, I lived to tell my story, but those young people didn't. When I was a very young mother, I learned that my daughter was special needs. And one day I decided to take 30 Tylenol to end my life, but I didn't, right? And so in the prologue to your book, you talk about how when things change inside of you, things change around you. I think about that time period when I took the pills, was in the ambulance, stomach being pumped out, then sitting in a psychiatric hospital for a few hours. That one situation changed me. And I realized that even though my daughter was special needs, it wasn't something that I could not handle. God gave her to me for a reason, and it was up to me to continue living to figure out what that reason was, but also be around to take care of her. So, now she's 30, she's going to be 32 this year. I know exactly why God gave her to me. He gave her to me because I could handle it, right? I was strong enough, but I needed to pull that energy, that strength from deep within. And I realized that I had to become comfortable being uncomfortable, because then I could grow, then I could heal. So I just want to say, I appreciate you sharing your story. You lived to tell the story, others did not. And when I think about just trauma in general, here in Chicago, we have lots of, gun violence across the nation, right? Really, you're seeing mass shootings, you're seeing all these things. And I'm like, when I came into the world in 1973, life was simple. I feel like I remember in kindergarten, walking home from school, life was just so simple in my eyes. But today, I feel like our teenagers have to go through so much just to get to school, the place that you're supposed to learn. They go through so much, experience so much in a playground. So their innocence is taken away from them at such a very early age that they're traumatized before they even get to experience life.
Oh, yeah, it's a different world for sure. I do have a chapter on social media that I also very much appreciate, just because social media is here to stay. I don't obviously recommend we get rid of it, because it's not going to happen. It is here. And just that pressure, the pressure of social media, it's affecting our teens, but it's affecting us too. We have a hard time navigating through that. So there's a lot of learning that has to be done when it comes to that. But yes, it is absolutely a different world out there.
And when you talk about social media and us as adults, I think about during the pandemic here in Chicago, like a lot of metropolitan cities, there was some civil unrest, right? And so there was lots of looting. And I remember my husband and I sitting on the couch. This is when we were on lockdown, right? This had to have been 8 hours of us on social media watching all of these things unfold real time. So I think, social media has its place, right? Because it's definitely educational, right? Like this is going to be on social media, right? So it's educational. But I also think there are a lot of things that are happening, such as bullying and harassment, are the negative parts about it. But there are some good parts. My husband and I reconnected in 2008 via social media. We went to high school together, right? We dated freshman year, and via social media, we were able to reconnect, right? So that was the good thing. But all of these bad things, I think you kind of have to decide how you use social media, how often you use social media. I think about, I've been reading, obviously, 52 authors, 52 weeks, right? I've been reading so many books, and a lot of the books that I'm reading outside of that talk about how social media is taking away a lot of things from us. It's taking our time, it's taking our energy. To some extent, it's changing our mindset about things. And I think about, me growing up with encyclopedias and, actual physical books and not this technology. I just wonder, what does the future hold for our young people? How will they navigate life in their new normal, right? We got artificial intelligence that's taking over. How will they experience life?
Yeah, it's very scary when you think about it. And what is unfortunate is, like, for me as a mother, I have three kids, and they're just getting to the age. I have a teenager, and the other ones are not far behind. I am part of the first generation of people who have to navigate social media. Right? Like, we are the first ones, and we are the first ones raising kids with social media. There's no playbook. We don't know how to do it. We don't know what the right way is, what the wrong thing is. I talk to my friends about it sometimes, and everyone has a different way to do things. Some will really limit screen time, which is great. That's what's working for them. Others will, have all these programs to kind of manage what their kids can see and not see on social media. That's great. Others are checking their kids' phones daily, but we don't know what the right way is and what the wrong way is. And our kids are also having to learn how to navigate that. What I'm hoping is that eventually we're able to talk to them in a way that, like, the only way we can really save them from what they're seeing on social media is to give them control. How do I say this? They need to be aware of how social media is making them feel. And that's something in my opinion, I think that has to be taught. They're not just going to grow up thinking, okay, I didn't really feel that great when I saw this video, and I'm seeing a lot of these videos. Like, maybe I should limit how much I'm, looking at these videos because they don't make me feel good. I'm seeing these videos about body image, and I don't feel good when I see them. We have to teach them. We have to teach them that they have control over that. And I'm not going to be looking over their shoulder all the time to make sure that what they're looking at is healthy for them. We have to empower them to do that themselves. How? I don't know. I think it's through conversations. I do think we have to make big effort to talk to our kids and have as much time in the day to be able to just talk to them. Meal times are so important. You put that phone away and you sit around the table and you just talk. I think that is more powerful than we think. But yeah, those conversations are important for sure.
Well, I think second thing, we got to get adults to do that same thing, because we, as an adult, when I go to, like, my husband and I will go to dinner, if you look around the room at the number of folks that are sitting there next to each other, with their phones, that's a nationwide problem, right?
Yes.
For all ages.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I think that this one book I was reading, I can't remember the name of it, talked about putting your cell phone in the next room when you're winding down for the night to go to sleep. Because if you don't, what do? You're going to sleep, you're like looking, you got one eye open, you're like scrolling through the phone. Then we use our phone as an alarm. So we wake up in the morning and we're scrolling again. It has taken over our lives, but we also use it for phone calls. We use it for emails and text messages and grocery shopping and just paying bills. So where's that balance?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So tell our listening viewing audience where they can find your book, because we want them to purchase the book today. I think it's a perfect book for a parent or a group of parents to read and then get together with their kids and have some conversations about the book. But also, as a parent myself, I know oftentimes, kids, dads aren't really cool, right? So maybe there's a younger person that's closer to their age that can identify with them, that can have these hard conversations. But also, I think the other thing that many of us refuse to do is therapy, right? There are suicide prevention phone numbers. Help is available, but we don't always know where help can be found. But sometimes, and I think in my own case, I was screaming for help, but no one was listening. So making sure that you listen to those around you, because listen to what they're telling you, but not telling you.
Yeah, yeah. What they're not saying. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
for
Mm-hmm.
sure. But what their body language is saying. That was something that I became after the first suicide. I became hyper aware of how my students were feeling, what they were telling me, what they weren't telling me, what their body language was telling me. Almost became obsessed. Like I was not going to miss a sign, which I know a lot more about suicide now because I had to research it. Like I had to understand as much as I could about suicide. And I went through all the phases of, I was angry towards my student for a long time because of what he did, but I understand more about it now. It's not as black and white as we think. I was going to say something else about that. In my chapter on mental health, I did want it to be, I wanted my main message to be that there is help out there for anyone struggling with mental health issues, but sometimes it's not the first person you talk to who will be able to help you. Not everyone is equipped to help someone who is going through mental health issues. And I use an analogy that I really like. I talk about how, let's say you're young, you're at home and you cut yourself really, really bad. Like you cut yourself very badly, you need stitches. So you go to your father because he's right there, but he doesn't like blood, doesn't want to be around it. So he says, oh my gosh, no, you go talk to your mom. I'm not the right person to deal with this. Does that mean he doesn't want to help you? No, he's just not equipped for it right now. And maybe, your mom is the next best person or someone else. So you have to keep asking, you have to keep looking for the right person to help you because it is there. Sometimes it's just not the first person you talk to. Maybe your best friend doesn't understand and doesn't have the right tools to help you. So you have to look elsewhere because not everyone can help you in the way that you need. If you broke your leg, you would go to the doctor. You wouldn't go to your best friend. Like you would go see a professional. So I talk about that in the mental health chapter. But yeah, you asked how people can find me. My book is on Amazon and it's available worldwide on Amazon. That's probably the easiest way to get the book. If someone wanted a signed copy, they can order it through my website, which is just my name, melaniegareau.ca, because I'm in Canada.ca. On social media, I am melg.author everywhere on Instagram and Facebook.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, I'm so proud of you for releasing, first of all, releasing your trauma, but being on a mission to help others. I actually, from time to time, teach at the college level. And so I don't work with the young people. I don't know how you all work with the young people. I don't have maybe a younger version of me did, but I don't have the mental and emotional capacity to work with the young people. After having my own biological daughter, 3 bonus, babies who are now adults, I applaud you for working with them and supporting them because they definitely need you. And I look forward to seeing what else you're going to do with this message, right? Because you have a message for individuals of all walks of life, all ages across the globe. So I want to see you out there on, big stages having this conversation because it's needed. And as the number of trauma continues to grow, right? These mass shootings and gun and knives and all these different, traumatic events that are happening, this is so it's needed. And it's coming from the perspective that's real, that's genuine. Like you're not a therapist, right? So you are basically just making it plain, digestible, and usable. And that's what's needed.
Yeah, I agree for sure.
Well, I want to thank you so much for joining me on 52 Authors, 52 Weeks. It has been an honor to hear about your story. Reading it is one thing, but hearing it, and as an educator, you got to read it, hear it, see it, right, for it to stick.
Yeah.
So hearing you talk about it, I will admit I was holding back the tears, thinking about your journey, but also thinking about my own journey. So this was amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. This was so much fun. It's an honor to be part of your 52 authors. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.